What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and today I'm coming at you with my locks and traps for UFC Qatar. You guys know the deal. In this video, I'm going to break down every single fight on this entire event, and I'm going to rank all my picks from my most confident picks at the very top with the locks, all the way down to my very least confident picks at the very bottom with the traps. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, first up, we got Perez versus Almabayev. Now, this is one of those fights where you could look at it from a bird's eye view. You could look and say, okay, Perez is 1-4 in his last 5, and his last fight, he got hurt, he got injured, and he blew his knee out like a year ago. Easy Almabayev pick. And I totally get that line of thinking. It's just, I think you really got to look at this a bit further. You know, you got to look at Alex Perez. You can say, okay, yes, he struggled against high-level grapplers. Yes, guys like Pantoja and Davison Figueiredo have been able to submit his ass pretty quick into their fights within the first round. So I get there are some bad looks that he's had in the past with the grappling. But one, those are high-level grapplers, the best on planet Earth, former and current champs. So I don't want to completely write Perez off just because he's had some bad moments in terms of the submission grappling. However, you can look at this too and look at Almabayev. He's not that level of a submission grappler. Almabayev is a wrestler. So you could say, okay, let's look at when Perez has fought high-level wrestlers. When he fought Muhammad Mokaev, who's arguably the best flyweight on planet Earth right now, or at least the top 5 guy, he had a lot of success going into that fight. We could see from that fight in the scorecards, it was a 28-29 loss. Yes, loss for Perez, but still, 29-28, he took a round off of Muhammad Mokaev. Very impressive in terms of his defensive wrestling, extremely impressive. So I think he could have a bit more success in this fight than the lines might suggest. And I think people are completely writing Perez off because of his last injury he had against Tatsuro Taira. And it's totally valid. Yes, it was his knee. I mean, probably the worst type of injury the guy like him could have had. But I don't know. I think you can't just completely write him off in the spot. You got to pick Almabayev here. However, I can't completely write Perez off. You know, yes, there are some other concerns of like, okay, yes, he's 1-4 in his last 5. Yes, he had that bad injury. You can look at it from afar and say, okay, I don't really know how mentally engaged he is at this point in his career. How much does he want it? You know, he has other things going on for him. He has a business. He has his family. There are things that Asu Almabayev doesn't have to clog his brain. You know, Asu Almabayev, he's focused on his career right now. He's focused extensively on his UFC career. He's going to try at least go for the belt, or at least be very competitive in this league, in this division. So I think Asu Almabayev has the better career trajectory. He has momentum going on his side. He's more focused. He's healthier. He doesn't have those injuries like Alex Perez has. So I think you got to go with Asu Almabayev in this spot. I just think you can't completely write Perez out. But anyway, next up, we got Hermansson versus Orolbai. Now, this is a very interesting matchup because you can look at these guys. They're coming. It's like weight classes are just smushing together. We got Hermansson, who's dropping a weight class. We got Orolbai, who's going up a weight class. So how this fight turns out, it could be a bit trickier than people might think. Now with Orolbai, he's a heavy grappler wrestler. He's looking to land takedowns, and he'll dive behind these takedowns. And a point of that's why this is so important in terms of the weight, is that he's stepping up a weight class. At a lower weight class, he was kind of a weight bully. He relied on the size and strength to take guys down, control them against the cage, rack up minutes of control time. He relies on his size and his strength. So him moving up to where he probably should be, because he could barely make weight at a lower weight class, it'll be interesting to see how that size and strength kind of carries up, you know, moving up a weight class. And a guy like Hermansson, he's had a hard time too making the weight at 185. Now he's dropping down to 170. It'll be interesting to see how that looks, because on the opposite side with Hermansson, he doesn't really rely on his size and his strength, but with his durability being a major concern, we just saw him get flatlined, put out cold. I mean, he looked like he died in that last fight against RoboCop. So to see that chin already be a major concern, now he's dropping down, now he's cutting even more weight. That's not going to be good for his chin. If anything, his chin could be even worse going into this fight. And he got knocked out and put out cold less than 6 months ago. So the fact that he's coming back this soon, dropping a weight class, huge red flag. I don't even think Orolbai has some crazy knockout power. It's just you start hitting a guy enough times and their chin is complete dust, they can fold right over. We saw what just happened with BSD and Dariush. That fight ended very quickly. And it's not like BSD is some like guy with Topuria level power. He's just hit him cleanly, dust chin. Fight was over. I could see this being the exact same thing. All it takes is one takedown from Orolbai, and he starts landing some ground and pound shots. It could be over. So I do have the concerns of Orolbai stepping up, Hermansson stepping down. How will the size and strength affect this fight? How dominant will Orolbai be able to be in the grappling, in the wrestling? When can he get on top? Can he control Hermansson? We'll have to see. I assume he does. And you can look at Hermansson and argue, okay, he's listened to higher level guys. Orolbai has not fought the same level of competition. Totally fair as well. But I got to go with Orolbai. You know, he's younger, faster, more athletic. He's going to be the better grappler. He should be able to have his way. He's proven that time and time again. He has absolutely zero quit in him. He has amazing 10 out of 10 durability. I mean, you got to kill Orolbai to put him out of there. I like the where his career is going in terms of his path, his momentum, trajectory, how he's been performing in recent fights. His recent just performances have been a lot better than Hermansson, who really seems to be on a steep decline, looking worse and worse with every fight. So I do worry about him. And you can't even look at wins that he's had, like against guys like Joe Pyfer. That was a 5-rounder where Joe Pyfer death gassed. That is the complete opposite of a stylistic matchup like this. Myktybek Orolbai is going to be going at him for 3 full rounds, grappling his ass off. He likely lands takedowns, racks up control time. Maybe he gets a finish, maybe he doesn't, but I think Orolbai should win this one pretty clearly. But next up, we got Dalby versus Izagakhmaev. If I'm saying that one right, call him Saygid. We know Saygid is one of the Khabib guys. He's really in their camp. He's been training with them for years and years and years. You go back, look at his Instagram, you can see all the footage and all the damn pictures that they have with Khabib, Islam, Umar, all those guys throughout the years. We know Saygid is one of the guys in the Khabib camp, so yes, there are some concerns with him. Now, we'll talk about Dalby here in a second, but with Saygid, yes, he's been out of the cage for quite a while. He hasn't fought in years, and we know that could be a huge red flag for most guys, but this feels like an exception to me. We see with Saygid, he's not fighting because he's in Islam's camp. He was training with him for his most recent title fight belt. We can see the footage of him on his Instagram. We can see him training with these guys for their belt, like Islam Makhachev. We can see that in his fights. So we know he's getting work in. You know, maybe he's not taking fights because he's getting training camps in and he's getting work in and he's constantly training, going around the world with the best fighters on planet Earth. I put more weight on that as opposed to just racking up some regional scene bum wins against guys who aren't that good. I'd rather have him training with Islam and Khabib, wherever the hell they are. You know, if they're in the U.S., like Madison Square Garden for Islam, or wherever it may be, maybe that's the reason why he's not getting these fights in. Now, I did go through his Instagram and I did see that he was injured at some point in 2024. He had some like arm brace. So I don't know if he hurt his arm. I don't know what happened, but it only seemed like he had that brace for a couple months. So I think more so the excuse for him not fighting, or the reason for him not fighting a whole lot, is probably because he's just on the road training with Islam and Umar and guys like that in the Khabib camp. I think he's just training with them, being their main training partners for these camps. So I put a lot more weight on that, and that's not really a huge problem to me. He has so many pro fights at his age. I'm not worried about him needing the experience or letting the big moment get to him. I'm not worried about that. You could argue, some people are saying, okay, you look back at his record, he did get submitted once he fought someone in the UFC or UFC level caliber guy like Carlston Harris. He did get submitted in that fight. I will say, though, it was 5 years ago at this point. It was 5 years ago. Was it the best look? No, but Carlston Harris does have some nasty submissions, so I don't want to completely hold that against him. And I'm not saying that, oh, he's definitely going to lose now just because he got submitted 5 years ago. It was a situation where I don't want to say it was unlucky or a coincidence or anything, or you know what I mean. It did happen, and he definitely fell victim to the darts. I mean, he got caught with it, but at the same time, I'm not really putting a ton of weight on that, especially with his last inactivity. I'm not putting a ton of weight on that either. I'm just looking at this from you got a guy who's 10 years younger than Dalby, and Dalby's had a ton of issues with durability in recent years. He's getting cracked. He's getting dropped. Guys are putting him out. Randy Brown fight was absolutely nasty. I mean, that knockout put him out completely cold. Now he's hopping right back at 41 years old. I just don't trust his durability. And we've seen with Saygid, we've at least seen him gone longer. We've seen him been able to go to a decision. We've seen him go long. I'm not worried about his cardio. And in this type of a fight, yeah, the striking might be relatively close. I'm going to trust the grappling of a guy like Saygid, who's actively been training with guys like Khabib and Islam for the last, 10 plus years. I'm going to trust his grappling more than Nick Dalby, especially at 41 years old. I don't really have any much confidence, or there's no confidence, there's no faith I have left in a guy like Dalby to keep pushing at this age, especially with his durability concerns now. Yes, he'll beat lower level guys. I just think Saygid should clearly win this fight. I'm not too worried about him, other than if he wants to keep it on the feet in a boxing match for 15 minutes against Dalby. Maybe he might have some success there in terms of Dalby having success. So, but besides that, I think Saygid should be able to rack up takedowns, land control time, and they're fighting in Qatar. Why do you think this matchup was made for a guy like Saygid in their camp? Give him that easy win. So, or not even necessarily easy, but if it's a close back and forth decision, if it's a split, I'd be very surprised if Saygid lost. So, got to pick Saygid in this one. Next up, we got Bujlo versus Freeman. Now, this is I put this as a low confidence pick. I almost made this one as a trap just because we got these two guys. There's not a ton of tape behind them. We know with Freeman, it was cool. I looked into it. He's a former U.S. Marine Corps captain. Pretty interesting. He also has a pretty extensive wrestling background as well. And that's about all we know about him. Now, we have seen him fight against decent level of competition. Like, he's fought in the PFL before. So it's not to say he's just beating up regional scene bums. His level of competition is way higher than Bujlo. I mean, Bujlo, you look at his level of competition, I believe he's 6-0 at this point. He's beating up absolute bums on the regional scene. He's getting these guys out of there in less than a round. I mean, I did the math. It was like his total like, I don't know, it was all of his fights of time combined, or his last 5 didn't even equal up to, I believe, like a round and a half of total cage time. So he's just running through these random bums on the regional scene, tells us absolutely nothing. There's just no way you can pick Bujlo in this one. He hasn't fought anyone with a pulse. He hasn't shown anything. He hasn't been able to fight through any adversity. I've learned absolutely nothing from watching tape study on Bujlo. Got to go with Freeman. Yes, we've seen him lose, but he's lost against higher level of competition. And when you're fighting in the PFL, I can put some respect on a loss like that, as opposed to Bujlo, who's just beating up random electricians in the scenes of Europe. So I can't really put any weight behind Bujlo's wins, where at least with Freeman, I've seen him being able to go long. He can hang. His cardio for a heavyweight is pretty decent. So Freeman's got to be the pick this week, but a low confidence pick for sure, because there's a lot of unknowns with both guys. But anyway, next up with the lock. This was an easy one. I mean, I put it in the poll when we dropped. We'll talk about that at the end. I was like, all right, Yakhyaev. I didn't even put him on the poll. This is like the most easy layup of a lock of all time. This is like a what is it, bingo? You get like a free one in the middle. This is quite literally that in terms of the locks. Yakhyaev should run right through Cerquiera. The only time Cerquiera has had an ounce of success is when Julius Walker completely death-gassed and made that fight way closer than it should have been, even after he dropped his ass. So Yakhyaev is not that guy. Yakhyaev finishes people. He runs right through people. And the one time we've seen him go to a decision, it was against a high-level guy. So there's no concerns in the back of my mind in this fight at all. This is like a super 10x lock. I mean, Yakhyaev, we know he's the better striker. The grappling, yes, Cerquiera is not a bad grappler, but we've seen Yakhyaev, he can hurt him. And if he hurts Cerquiera, all that grappling is going to go out the door if you can't see straight and your brain is going all crazy and foggy. So I'm not worried about him anywhere this fight takes place. Even if it's the most boring back and forth striking match you've ever seen, I think Yakhyaev is the better striker. I'm not worried about his cardio, and I know he's not going to death gas like someone like Julius Walker did. So Yakhyaev, absolute lock of the century. I mean, this is like almost like you got to question, like, why was this match even made? The matchmaking's a bit crazy. And I know Yakhyaev is very green, only like, 24 years old, but he's shown skills everywhere. I mean, we've seen his striking, we've seen his grappling, we've seen his cardio go long, we haven't seen his chin be cracked at all. So I have no worries about Yakhyaev. This should be a clear, easy, dominant performance, likely a round 1 knockout for Yakhyaev. Next up, we got Oezdemir versus Menifield. Now, this is one where you can look at recent fights and you could say, okay, you know, Menifield, he came in and as a huge underdog against Omar Sy, you know, Menifield's so back. I don't know. I just think he got lucky in that spot. I think Omar Sy really pissed that fight away, which is not trying. Omar Sy just shows no lack of effort or fight finishing like tendencies. Like, he just doesn't even seem like he wants to be there in some of his fights. That was a perfect example of Menifield just wanted it more than he did. Not even a skill set thing. It was just he looked lazy out there. I don't know how to describe it other than that. So against Oezdemir should be better than him everywhere except, I don't know, maybe the pure wrestling. Menifield has an advantage, but Menifield's one of those guys where I don't want to completely change up my opinions and my breakdowns on Menifield after one performance, because even before that fight in Omar Sy, I thought Omar Sy was really more talented than him across the board. You know, Menifield is just very strong. He's very athletic. He has that strength, that just raw, natural athletic power. But besides that, he's not the most technical. He's good. He's decent everywhere. So I don't want to roast Menifield at all. I mean, he's had a lot of success in this division. It's just Oezdemir, I think he's better everywhere, except, like I said, maybe the pure wrestling. And he's fought the much higher level of competition too. We've seen Menifield knocked out in less than like 30 seconds before. I mean, we've seen his chin cracked. We've seen real holes in his game. And it's just like, I don't want to say he's a gatekeeper, but kind of. At this point in time, he kind of is. With Oezdemir, he's had real glimpses of success. You know, he fought for the belt. He's fought high-level guys. I mean, he's losing to guys like what? Like a DC, like Big Ank. He's lost to, I don't know, who's Carlos Olberg. The guys he's losing to are the elite of the elite. We've seen Menifield and some of his losses has not looked great. It's not the same level of competition. So this is a pretty easy pick for me. Would I be completely mind-blown if Oezdemir gets knocked out or gets finished? No, Menifield does hit hard. Would I be surprised if Menifield out-wrestles Oezdemir for 15 minutes? Can't say I'd be mind-blown. I just think Oezdemir is the more experienced, more well-rounded, more talented guy. Should have more tools in his arsenal to get the job done. So I think Volkan Oezdemir should get his hand raised this weekend. But next up, we got Bogdan Grad versus Luke Riley. I got this as a trap. I know a lot of people are high on Luke Riley, but I was going through his tape this week, and I just really was not that impressed. You know, with Luke Riley, you look at his build. It's not even just about his build, but you look at his build, and it's like, all right, this guy is not a full-grown man. You know what I mean? Like, his build has this like little boy. I don't know if it's like the testosterone or what. He just doesn't have the most filled out build. He doesn't seem like he's the strongest guy out there. And my point about saying that is that you can see in the grappling, there are moments in his grappling where he's letting guys take him down, ragdoll him, control him, and he looks almost hopeless out there in certain times with the grappling. So that is not a good look against a guy like Bogdan Grad. Bogdan Grad is not very technical. He's not the most skilled guy, but he is a beast. He's a marauder. He's going to walk you down. He's going to make the fight ugly. He's not going to quit, and he's not going to give up. I mean, you look at Luke Riley's recent fights. He's beating guys when they essentially, when they death gas. I mean, other than that, we've seen, even his most recent fight, he fights this guy as a huge favorite coming in. First round, he gets dominated in the wrestling. I mean, he has absolutely nothing to give. He gets completely wrestle-fucked the entire first round, with zero success against the guy who's like 9-6. Not some world beater, just some random regional dude that works him in the grappling. He has no answer. The thing is, though, second round comes around, he just death gasses. The guy he's fighting, I'm blanking on his name. It was his most recent fight. He just death gasses. Nothing left in the tank. He doesn't even get knocked out. He just kind of like curls up against the cage and just gives up. I mean, like, it was pretty sad. And against a guy like Bogdan Grad has cardio for days. He can go long. Yes, there are chin problems of Bogdan Grad. Would I be mind blown if Luke Riley touches his chin, gets Bogdan Grad out of there, knocks his ass out? Absolutely not. Wouldn't be surprised at all. It's just at a 3-1 price tag. We've seen Luke Riley even hurt. We've seen him drop before. We've seen him be dominated in the grappling. He's just fighting regional bums and cage warriors. He's proven absolutely nothing, and he's a 3-1 favorite at 25 years old going against Bogdan Grad, who is going to make him work the entire time. Luke Riley's beating guys that just death gas. We know Bogdan Grad's not going to do that. Luke Riley does have knockout power, crisp hands. He's probably going to have the faster hands, the better striking in this fight against Bogdan Grad. This is one of those fights where it almost feels like Leon Edwards versus Carlos Prates. Leon Edwards, if he just wrestled and just grappled, he would have won. But then Carlos Prates, Leon gets on his back. Carlos Prates starts talking shit like, oh, no one wants to see this. Then he lets it get in his head. He starts reacting, fighting emotionally, decides to stand and strike, then he gets caught. This could be a similar thing. If Bogdan Grad, though, however, if he fights a smart game plan, if he just comes out here and wrestles for 15 minutes, I have no doubt in my mind he could easily win a decision against Luke Riley. Just wrestling him, just controlling him against the cage the entire 15 minutes. Even if it's not the most entertaining, I could totally see him winning a fight like this. So I'm not putting anything on Luke Riley. I think it's a real trap this week. You'd have to hope that he gets a knockout over Bogdan Grad, but we've seen Luke Riley hurt before too, so I don't like Luke Riley's durability, I don't like his grappling, I don't like his strength. He seems like a smaller guy out there, so Bogdan Grad is not the easiest matchup for him. It all comes down to if Bogdan Grad fights a smart game plan. I think Bogdan Grad by decision, very live this week, or even a knockout. I would avoid this one if I were you guys. I really do think this one is a trap. But anyway, next up, we got Almabayev versus Horiguchi. Now, Horiguchi is a good guy, fought in the UFC prior, coming back years later. It's just at this point in his career, I don't know if he has the tools to get this one done. Yes, in the recent years, he's gone from a striker who's had to transition to more of a grappler because his chin has been absolute dust in recent years. He's getting hurt in every single fight. Even his fight, one of his most recent fights against something Zulu, watch that one back. He's getting hurt in that fight. We saw, what's his name? Sergio Pettis. We saw him knock his ass out completely cold, spinning back fist, put him out, lights out, going to bed. Yes, Ulanbekov's not a power puncher striker who's just knocking people's heads off, but when you have that type of real concern in your durability, Tagir Ulanbekov isn't hopeless on the feet. He can strike, and when you have a guy whose chin is that dust, that bad, all it takes is one shot. Ulanbekov might wobble him, not even necessarily knock him out, but at that point the round's over. And that's like, I don't like going against guys like that or going for guys that have bad chins. It's like that type of a chin that's that bad, that suspect, where we've seen them go completely out cold like that before. All it takes is one shot, and even if they don't get finished, like I said, the round's over. So in terms of the grappling, it should be pretty competitive. You know, I think Horiguchi is a very high skilled guy. It's not like he's completely washed. It's not like he's 47 years old coming to the UFC again. I mean, he's still at a competitive age where he can still win fights at the UFC level. It's just against Tagir Ulanbekov. Pretty bad matchup, you know, not the worst matchup he could have, but Ulanbekov, top 15 guy, very good, very well-rounded. He can hang anywhere the fight takes place. I just think he should be a step above Horiguchi, especially where they're at in terms of their careers and their trajectory and their ages. Give me Ulanbekov ever so slightly. I think he should get this one done, especially on the feet. And the grappling, he should have a slight edge, although I think it will be close. You know, I think the line is getting wider, and I don't necessarily know if it should be that wide. I'm not completely writing Horiguchi off. It's just at this point in his career, the durability is that big of a concern. The pick's got to be Ulanbekov. But anyway, next up, we got Nardiev versus Loder. Now, this is one of those. Nardiev, I go back and look at his tape. I'm like, not the most important or not the most impressive performances that he's had throughout the years. And I look, I'm like, yeah, he's young, but it's just like he's had times where his cardio is a concern. He's had time where his durability is a concern. His striking's not look great at times. His grappling's not look good. Against a guy like Ryan Loder, yes, we've seen him knocked out before in the past. Yes, we saw Asmat Bekoev kind of messed him up in that spot. I don't think that's a really bad look, though. Almabayev, say what you want about his last fight, he's still a pretty aggressive, forward-pressuring guy that can knock a ton of people out. It's still a high-level dude, pretty young himself, so he has time to develop as well. So I'm not putting a ton of weight into that fight, but it's like, even look at his fight against Jung Young Park. For Nardiev, you look at his most recent fight against Jung Young Park, that was not a good look. I mean, he was death gas, gave up a point being sloppy, or 2 points, so I don't know. This is one of those fights. We're across the world. We're in Qatar. Would I be mind blown if Nardiev wins a split decision with back and forth grappling for 15 minutes? Can't say I will be. Would I be mind blown if Loder gets knocked out? No. Would I be mind blown if Nardiev gets knocked out? No. I could see this fight going a million ways. This feels like a clear dogger pass. Nardiev at minus odds as a favorite. Completely stupid. I'd rather burn money than go on Nardiev as a favorite in this one. But at the same time, it's tight enough and it's tightened up quite a bit. I just can't get behind Loder at basically a pick'em. This is one I'm just avoiding. I won't be surprised if either guy wins. I'm going with Loder just because I think he has the grappling to be able to control Nardiev. We've seen him struggle with that in the past, and I think Loder's no different. He's a high-level wrestler who can control fights. He can land takedowns. He can control guys on the ground. So I think if Loder sticks to a smart game plan, wrestles like he should, he could easily beat a guy like Nardiev. So going with the underdog and Loder. Next up, we got Almabayev versus Topuria. This is one that I've gone back and forth with the most out of probably any fight, because this is one of those fights where I almost look at it in the sense of, if I were to take a step back and I didn't know about Ilia Topuria, right? If Ilia Topuria did not exist, would you pick Topuria in the spot? And I think about it, I'm like, what? If Ilia Topuria didn't exist, would I pick his brother here, his older brother? Probably not. It's like I'm almost like, I feel like people that are picking him in the spot are kind of like relying on that, or not relying on it, but it's just more so it's kind of clogging, or I don't know, clouding their judgment in the sense of there's that underlying, well, he's training with Ilia Topuria. Ilya's the best, so he's obviously got to be super good. And he's looked good so far. Alexander's looked pretty good so far. But you can't just imagine, or you can't just assume those skills are just transferable, like a text you can send back and forth. That's just not how that works. So what I've seen so far from Topuria in the UFC has been good. I mean, what we saw from Thickness, good performance. I just worry about the speed in this. I think on the feet, I do think Almabayev is going to be the much faster boxer. He's going to be quicker. His foot movement's a lot faster. He's going to have the speed on his side. Topuria, yeah, he has the power for sure, but Almabayev, pretty good durability. We see him hurting people. We don't really see him hurt all that much. So I'm not too worried about the incoming power of a Topuria. Now, it could be a concern. Maybe Topuria hits it hard enough. We saw him knock down Colby Thickness. It definitely could happen. I'm just not super, super concerned. The thing that worries me the most for Almabayev in the spot is the wrestling. I do rate Topuria's wrestling. It looked really good against Colby Thickness. And I think we've seen, yes, Almabayev struggled in the wrestling against elite talent like Umar Nurmagomedov. So the level of competition, completely different. It's not like, okay, he struggled against Umar in the wrestling, Topuria is just going to destroy him in the wrestling. That's not how that works. It's just, there is that concern in the back of my mind of, it wasn't even like Umar was able to out-wrestle him. It was like Umar controlled him for like 14 out of 15 minutes. That was the more like concerning thing of like, okay, when this guy gets to the ground, he had zero answers. I mean, even like Bautista had some answers. He had moments, a lot more success in that fight. So, different levels of competition, I totally get it. But in this sense of, I do worry about the grappling for Almabayev, but I do worry about the speed for Topuria. In the sense of going both ways. I think Almabaev's going to be a lot faster on the feet, a lot quicker, landing more volume. That could win him rounds on the scorecards. But I think Topuria is probably going to be the better wrestler. He can land control time. He can land takedowns, rack up minutes that way. I think this could go either way. Coin toss makes perfect sense. Slight lean for Almabayev, just because I think if I was looking at this, if I didn't know Ilia Topuria at all, if he did not exist, I probably would pick Almabayev just because of his more extensive background. He's fought more against higher level guys. He's shown us a lot more. Topuria has had huge breaks in his career so far, so not the best sign. We don't really know quite where his skill set is at, so we'll have to see with this one. But Almabayev as the pick, ever so slightly. I keep going back and forth, but I'll go with him for now. But anyway, next up, we got Tsarukyan versus Hooker. Now, Arman Tsarukyan should win this spot. I mean, he was going from a title shot against Islam to now he's fighting, I don't know what Dan Hooker's ranked, number 12. And you can say, okay, well, Dan Hooker's had a lot of success against wrestlers in the past. We saw what he was able to do to Gamrot. Gamrot let the media get in his head. They was like, oh, you're just a boring wrestler. You can't strike. Gamrot, you're boring as hell. No one wants to watch you. He let the ego get involved. He didn't fight to a smart game plan. He decided to strike, paid the price for it, lost the split decision against Dan Hooker. I bet on Dan Hooker in that spot. I thought the value was there because Gamrot is one of those guys. He's almost like a Belal. Let the media get to his head. We know that's not a good look for guys, so that was a good spot for us on that one. But yeah, in this type of a fight, I don't think Arman Tsarukyan is going to be that guy. Arman Tsarukyan, after all the ridicule, backlash, and hate that he got for that Islam injury, Say what you want about that. After all that shit that he had to deal with, I think he's going to mean business in the spot. And I just don't really see a real reality where he would lose this fight. You know, I think Arman Tsarukyan has more power in the hands. Striking is probably going to be where they're the closest, but I think he has more power, and I think he has better durability. We've seen Dan Hooker knocked out before. We've seen him not be able to deal with a barrage of strikes. It's not that he's going to quit. Dan Hooker is one of the toughest guys out there in the entire UFC. I mean, you'd have to kill him to get him out of there, so it's not like he would quit. It's just we've seen him hurt before. You can't control your chin. We've seen him knocked out before. That could happen in the spot. And in terms of the grappling, obviously you have to give the edge to Arman Tsarukyan in terms of the wrestling, the grappling, the submission abilities. I mean, Arman has a clear edge in that spot, so I just think there's a lot more ways for Arman to win this fight. Dan Hooker is really not in the best type of a matchup. I think this is honestly like a nightmare matchup for a Dan Hooker. So I think Arman could really have his way on the feet, on the ground, wherever this takes place. Arman Tsarukyan's got to be a clear pick. I can't really see him losing the spot other than, death gassing and Dan Hooker getting a late finish. I just don't see that happening. So Arman's got to be a pretty confident pick this week. But next up, we got Aliev versus Shamrock. Now, I like Aliev. I'm not super torn, or I'm not super sold on him in this spot. Because I will say, between the two, I think Shamrock has shown a lot more in terms of how their matches are going to go. I think Shamrock has a lot better of a chance than a Luke Riley, and I know I have him flipped like this, but my point is that Shamrock, this is a similar fight to where he wants to be. Shamrock wants to grapple. He wants to take it to the ground. He wants to wrap up a submission. Who's going to take this fight to the ground? Aliev's damn sure going to want to take this fight to the ground. We know with Aliev, he's going to stick to a smart game plan. He's going to stick to what he's good at, and that's wrestling. So on one hand, you could look at this and say, well, Shamrock is going to have the fight where he wants to fight, where he wants to be on the ground. That could help him. But at the same time, you have a wrestler versus a grappler. I want to go with the wrestler. The wrestler should be able to land the takedowns, stay on top. And as long as he's not getting caught by, a triangle off bottom by a guy like Shamrock, I don't think there's a ton to be worried about. I think Aliev probably, I don't want to say coast through this fight, because you look at Rock, you look at his recent fights, you can see he's a pretty big dude for the division, but just the level of competition he's fighting is not very good. You can look at his recent fights. He won a split decision in his most recent fight against a guy who just took the fight on 7 days' notice, came up off the couch, took the fight, and he went to a split decision with him. I'm not saying it should have been a split decision. I think he did win, but it's just still, either way, not a good look. Against a guy like Nurul Aliev, yeah, he's not finishing anyone. He's not going to get a finish. He's not knocking anyone out. He's not submitting anyone. But he's going to stick to a smart game plan. He's like an Islam or a Makach, or not a Kamzat. He's going to stick to the exact game plan that he knows is going to allow him to win. That's the type of guy you probably want to bet on. So I don't mind Aliev with a little bit of juice. He's proven more against not insanely better competition, but ever so slightly more. I'll take his short list of UFC wins over Cage Warrior wins, where guys are stepping up on short notice. So Rock, I think he's not out of this fight. I wouldn't be completely mind blown if he were to land a submission against a guy like Aliev, but I just don't really necessarily see that happening. I think Nurul Aliev sticks to what he's good at, lands a takedown, stays on top, doesn't allow any reversals from Rock, and wins a pretty boring, unanimous decision. I assume that's where this fight would go. So anyway, next up, we got Spivak versus Gaziyev. I got this as a trap, man, because this could go either way. We don't really know. On one hand, would I be mind blown if Gaziyev comes out here, round one knockout? Absolutely not. Would I be mind blown if Spivak comes out here, gets first round submission? Or maybe, no, probably not first round, but maybe a third round, second round submission? Wouldn't be surprised at all. We've seen both these guys, I don't want to say quit, but we've seen both of them basically say, I'm done, I'm ready to go. And on the other hand, we've seen both of them come out and look like absolute killers in the first round. So it depends on which version of both of these guys come out here. I mean, we saw Gaziyev against Rosenstruck. He quit. He was like, screw this. I don't have the cardio anymore. I can't knock this guy out. I'm screwed. I mean, all it took was a jab from Rosenstruck, and Gaziyev was cooked. I mean, he had no answers. It was one jab, just popping the jab. That was it. The fight was over. I mean, that sealed the fate. So on one hand, not the best luck. And we've seen him out wrestle guy like low level competition, like Dontel Mace. That doesn't really tell me shit. And you look at Spivak, it's like you see in his recent fights, like you look when he fought Tybura, wrapped the submission in the first round like it was nothing. I mean, he looked like a minus 10,000 favorite out there. It looked absolutely insane. But then you see other fights where he just kind of folds over. I mean, and I know the level of competition is totally different. I totally get it. And against guys like Tom Aspinall, he just goes out there and looks like he doesn't even want to be here. But then you look at his recent fight against like Waldo Cortez Acosta, he's not even really trying to grapple all that much. I'm like, why are you not sticking to the smart game plan? Is it a cardio thing? Is it what? Who the hell knows? I worry about the cardio from both guys. I worry about the heart and durability of both guys. This is just all a bunch of durability issues and concerns, and so it's a trap for sure. I do have Gaziyev as a pick because I think he likely, gun to my head, I'd say the most likely outcome is he probably comes in here, lands our first round knockout, takes Spivak's head completely off. But if he doesn't, if he can't get that finish and he gasses out and the second, third round comes around, he's death gassed, I would not be surprised if Spivak wraps up a submission late at all. So there's a million ways this fight could go. Seems like a trap all around. But anyway, last up, we got Muhammad versus Garry. Now, I know a lot of people are pretty damn high on Ian Garry this week. I just have this concern in the back of my mind of, what if Belal Muhammad, I was going to say Muhammad Ali, holy shit. What if Belal Muhammad actually sticks to a smart game plan? Are we going to be I mean, like, at this point, after his last fight, that's like a legitimate question. You have to ask yourself, is this guy actually going to stick to a smart game plan? Does Belal Muhammad actually give a shit? I mean, you look at him, even in recent interviews, the guy's talking about, I'm going to box with Ian Garry. I'm going to outstrike Ian Garry. His ego, I don't know if it's the ego or what, like, his mindset and his mind frame, I don't know if it's just the fact that he's like, 37? He knows there's no way in hell he's ever touching the belt again. And maybe he's like, screw it, man. I'm just here to have fun, collect some checks, put on some fun fights. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But he went from a guy who was sticking to the smartest game plans, wrestling, grappling, had great cardio, was going to go long, stick to a very smart game plan. Now he's just throwing it all away. I mean, he threw away that title fight against JDM. He could definitely throw this fight away too. I won't be surprised. And the striking, it should not be close. Ian Garry should be the much better striker. In terms of the grappling, in terms of like the submission abilities and submission threats, not too worried about either guy. But in terms of the wrestling, I will give Muhammad the credit there. I'll give him the upside there. And the interesting thing about this fight, though, was that Belal Muhammad, he asked for a 5-rounder in this fight, and Ian Garry refused. He literally said, Belal Muhammad said he asked for a 5-rounder, but Ian Garry would not take the fight in a 5-round fight. He said, I refuse. I will only sign if it's a 3-round fight. Very interesting. So maybe Belal Muhammad, maybe at this point he says, oh shit, maybe I would have beaten him in a 5-rounder, but a 3-rounder, I'm cooked. Screw it. Let's go out there and box. I don't know. There are just a lot of concerns to have about this. But at this point in their career with both guys, Ian Garry, in terms of Belal Muhammad, in terms of their career trajectory, night and day difference. I mean, Ian Garry, future champ. Belal Muhammad, he got a couple more wins left in the tank, and that's probably going to be it. I mean, Belal Muhammad's never touching the belt again, ever. So, there are a lot of ways this could go. If Belal Muhammad's going to stick to a smart game plan, who the hell knows? I don't trust it. After his last performance, he's going to have to prove to me that he can actually stick to a smart game plan and that he actually gives a shit. Because with Ian Garry, we know for a fact that Ian Garry wants to be champ. He's being very serious about his career. He's fighting for the belt, or at least he's going to work his way up. He's trying to get there. So I'm going to put the trust in the guy who's taking his career more seriously, who actually is on a good career trajectory, has the momentum going for him, actually gives a shit, and is actually going to stick to the smartest game plan to get himself a win in this. So pick's got to be Ian Garry. But anyway, guys, we had the poll last time. You guys absolutely killed it. Basinger Tsarukyan was your guys' lock. Ended up cashing. Will we go 2 for 2? Second time we're around. We had the poll this week. Arman Tsarukyan ended up winning. We had Arman, Myktybek, Orolbai, Saygid, Izagakhmaev, and we had Ian Garry. So between those, I mean, you guys overwhelmingly had Arman Tsarukyan. It was close though. Myktybek, Orolbai, and Ian Garry close behind, second and third, ever so slightly. And our boy Saygid didn't get anything. In terms of the comments, some of you guys left comments. We had playlist of shit with Orolbai and Tagir. We had Mad Martigan at John Pork. Shout out Jonko. And then we had I Miss Goldie with Arman and Aliev. And finally, we had It's Guzzy with Yakhyaev inside the distance. A little bit of a switch up. Yeah, threw it in here. So thank you guys for the comments. Really appreciate it. But in terms of how we're ranking it, you guys picked Arman, so you guys know the deal. We're ranking it, or we're moving it up a spot in terms of the confidence levels. We are moving his ass up. Now we got 2 locks. We got my lock with Yakhyaev, which is like a freebie. I know. I can already see there's going to be at least one hate comment. You idiot! I can't believe you placed a minus. But I mean, it's a freebie. I'm taking my free bingo square on this card. I'm taking my free bingo X, like free play or whatever the hell. I'm taking it. Okay, I'm taking it. But yeah, you guys got Arman Tsarukyan. That honestly, that made the most sense. I thought about making Arman Tsarukyan a lock. I really think if there's any other one to put a lock besides Yakhyaev, it's got to be Arman Tsarukyan. I can't really see a world where with him losing this fight, besides him death gassing. Dan Hooker just doesn't have enough pop to really hurt him all that much. The grappling's not going to be close. He might be behind. Arman might be a step behind in the striking ever so slightly, but I think he should have the power and the ability to just really push forward and make it close, get inside make it ugly. You know what I mean? He's not going to fight that pretty point fighting from distance against a guy like Dan Hooker. So as long as he can close the distance, make it a little bit ugly, I see him clearly winning this fight. So yeah, I agree with you guys quite a bit on this one. If I had to do another lock, I would have made this one the lock myself. So anyway, guys. Oh, we're out of slides. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for all the love on the videos. Hope you guys found some value from this one. Sorry for no full card breakdown. It's just been a busy week. I've been working on stuff behind the scenes. So this is all we're doing locks and traps. However, we're going to have the weigh-in recap video on Friday. We're going to have the best bets video coming out here soon. You guys know the deal. We're going to cover it all. We're not stopping. We got it coming out. Just a little behind this week. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for all the love on the videos. Thank you guys for all the support. It means a ton. And yeah, I greatly appreciate it. If you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, even become a member. It really helps the channel in terms of supporting me, kind of helping the videos keep coming out like this. It really means a lot. So thank you guys once again for all the love on the videos. Going to get this one out to you guys here ASAP. But in the meantime, it's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'm out. So peace.